Hi, my name is Abigail Bond, and today I'm going to tell you how the FBI profiles serial killers. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. I'm sure many of you have heard these famous words somewhere, especially in any crime TV show, such as My Favorite Criminal Minds. In one of my favorite episodes, the serial killer inflicted wounds on himself, along with the rest of his victims, in order to throw the FBI off his trace, yet they used things such as looking at the victims, the crime scene itself, and how the victims were killed in order to catch the killer before there were too many deaths. Although in Criminal Minds, they make it seem easier to catch a criminal, the actual work an FBI profiler does is quite difficult. If you think about it, the mind of a murderer is a compelling subject. What can motivate an individual to commit such a destructive act? There are many questions similar to this one that they have to ask, therefore they must think just as crazy and psychotically as a criminal in order to catch them. 3 strategies the FBI uses to aid in catching a serial killer are analyzing the crime scenes, victimology, and methodology. Just by looking at a crime scene and analyzing it, the FBI can gain a lot of information that helps to reveal the killer. Shows like Criminal Minds exaggerate things to the extreme to make it seem more interesting and to increase the level of entertainment, yet things aren't as easy as they make it seem. As I have learned from the website Promego Life Sciences, there are many key factors present in a crime scene that are important to close the case. One of the most obvious things to look for is fingerprints, but not every serial killer is sloppy enough to leave behind evidence this obvious, so they have to dig deeper in order to increase the knowledge of the killer. Ballistics, the study of the projectile from firearms, is one of the other things that profilers must look at. This actually tells you more about the serial killer than you think. Using a gun can make the criminal seem old or weak, so this narrows the suspects greatly. There also might have been a witness that could be able to give the FBI information about the killer. The FBI also looks at whether or not the killer broke in, the amount of blood on the scene, and whether or not the murder weapon was left or taken. These are just some of the many things that profilers have to make sure they catch if they want to have a shot at arresting the criminal. Not only does the FBI have to analyze the crime scenes, they also have to look at victimology, the study of the victims to see if there is a pattern, as I have learned from looking on the FBI government website. For example, if every victim is a physically fit male, the killer most likely has to also be physically fit in order to overtake his victims. Another example is, say every victim is a blonde woman in her 20s. After careful consideration, the profilers could reach the conclusion that the killer had a mom with blonde hair who was very abusive, and the victims were substitutes for her. Now, many of you are probably wondering how they figure this out, and although most of it is theory, judging by the wounds inflicted in the time before death and research of abusive moms in the fitting time period, profilers will be able to connect the dots on who the killer is. Both of these examples narrow down the suspect list, causing the FBI to become closer to catching the killer. One of the most important things used to catch serial killers is methodology, which means exactly what it says, the method used to kill the victims. Once the body is found, it is taken to the coroner where it is then examined. Studying the way someone was killed will reveal a lot about the personality of the killer and may even reveal his or her age. Whether or not the victims were stabbed, raped, hung, shot, drowned, or anything else similar to these can tell profilers what type of serial killer they are dealing with and how they should proceed with the investigation, as I concluded from reading the FBI government website. Another part of methodology is the signature that the killer leaves at the crime scene. After reading a homicide website, I have learned that anything the criminal does that isn't necessary to the crime itself is considered the signature. For example, the Zodiac Killer wrote messages to local newspapers about his murders and how he liked killing, according to the book Serial Killers, A Shocking History. He also had a symbol of a circle with a cross through it that became known as the Zodiac symbol. Signatures like this reveal the personality of the killer, but as for the Zodiac Killer, his case has not yet been solved, even through studying the methodology. Although many other cases have been closed, the killer being arrested and sentenced thanks to the methodology and the careful thinking of the FBI profilers. In conclusion, there are countless insane and violent serial killers in the world, but because of the work done by the FBI profilers, a numerous amount are arrested before there is too much damage done. Some of the most famous serial killers in the world are normal, ordinary people with families living in a normal neighborhood among the rest of society, which just shows how deceiving and manipulative they can be. Yet, as you can see, through analyzing crime scenes, victimology, and methodology, profilers are able to arrest serial killers like this and make the world a safer place.